Welcome to A Turn for the Better. We're going to pick up today where we left off last issue with that tool that everybody learns to hate, our skew. I'm going to use the peeling cut, which can be very aggressive, removes an awful lot of wood, or it also can be a very handy cut to take a small amount. What this is going to be is lay the tool high where it won't cut, bring it back, and as you see how that is peeling off, it's coming off just like taking a plane and cutting that off. Now, this is like all the rest of the cuts. You're going to have to start here, and it's going to progress forward and down. Remember now, pick it up. It has to advance forward and down because the diameter is going down at this point and in at that point. I've got my tool relatively close to 90 degrees, my cutting edge 90 degrees. My tool handle is whatever, laid flat on the tool rest. Makes a very simple cut. Now, if you really want to move wood, it'll do that also. Again, we're going to be writing above the bevel or the cutting edge. Bring it back until the cutting edge catches and starts to cut. Then we're going to have to forward it and down. Now, if you wanted this wall cleaned up, we should go back in with the point. Just that fast, we would have a tenon. The start of a bead, what everybody just loves. Probably the most difficult piece to turn or to make with the skew is a bead. And you have to use a little bit of thought when you do it. All my life I fought it until I decided I was going to conquer it. To conquer it, you have to understand it. That bead is end grain. If we try to come down with, say, the 1/3 of that, if you're good enough, you can do it. But it's going to get away on you so easy that it'll make your head swim. Being end grain, use nothing but that tip and bring that down. Now, if you notice, my tool will be 90 degrees or almost 90 degrees when I'm done with this particular cut. All that accounted for was nothing than rolling it over and advancing forward. Watch how the tool advances towards the center. And I end up, tool won't cut. It's at the bottom of the cut, and that tip is pointed directly at the center line. I'm going to get a different tool. The main reason being it'll probably be easier to see. And it is also a very good tool to cut beads. This is a 3/8 beading and parting tool. I think most people use them for scrapers. This one is cut 90 degrees across, and it is used basically like a parting tool. In other words, it does a peeling cut. But it will also roll a bead. I prefer to have mine in a skew mode. Now, do you have to use the long or short point? Absolutely not. We can take the long point and do the same thing. What makes this bite? Let's stop the lathe and take a good look. When you progress through this, you're doing nothing but riding that heel. If you stop advancing it forward, in other words, stop it going towards the center line, and just try raising the tool, you go to the trailing edge and out it comes. Okay, let's do that again. Okay, we're cutting good on the point. If I quit advancing it forward and just raise the handle, now I'm moved the cut way up to here. And when that happens, it's goodbye. Out it comes. I'm going to continue to use this little 3/8 parting and beading tool because I think you can see it much easier than I could with the other one. Okay, now I'm going to continue. I'm going to pick up that point. Okay, now you can see the point is cutting. Now, if I do not go forward or towards the center line any longer, but still raise the handle, now as you notice, you can see the cut coming higher on the tool, and it just throws it right out. Let's try that with the lathe running. I'll see if I can do it slow. Okay, we're just going to start our cut. Now, if I do not advance forward and just go down, okay, we can see where things started picking up here and slowly wound ourselves out and made our classic catch. That was because we stopped advancing one way. This time, what I'm going to do is start my cut, and I'm going to not raise my handle, and I run out. In other words, I'm going to have to raise my handle to keep it cutting. But the minute I quit advancing forward, out it comes. You need both directions at the same time. I have one other motion that I am part in here. We're going forward, we're raising our handle, but we're also rolling our tool over. Now I'm not dragging the tool around. I'm rolling the tool over. When I finish, it's going to be in a no-cut mode. Going to start it here. Forward, raise the handle. Hear that? I've hit the bottom and the tool will not cut anymore. I'm also perfectly vertical. I can pull this out without catching. If you stop here and pull it out, it's going to catch on you. One more time. And it makes a nice clean cut. Just remember, end grain, you're using the tip. Does it matter which tip? No, it doesn't. We cut that with the short one. Cut that one with the long one. Take your pick. Okay, this time we've backed out far enough that you can see how the tool works. Hear it? It's quit. Did you notice just how it makes that move and ends up where it's in a non-cutting mode? This time you should be able to see more of the tool handle, the direction it takes. Okay, we're going to bring it back. See where it's starting to cut. Now follow it through, rolling my tool, advancing it forward, and raising the handle. It quit cutting. Once more. And just so that you don't think you have to have a special tool, whichever skew you have will do the job. Now that we've advanced and seen how to make a bead, let's make a couple. I'm going to take my beading tool Now we've got our basis for our beads. Probably the best way is just to find the center. Just so you know where you're at. In other words, you don't want to start too far to one side. I'm going to drop my tool rest just a little bit. My diameter is a little smaller. Get to the top, and you do want that off so you're not going to sand it. Just take a light cut. And we have a couple beads. If you've been noticing, I'm not moving very fast. I'm trying to make everything like I think it should be made, and I'm watching my tool as I do it. I feel one of the things that a lot of turners do is that once they get it started, they have a fear they're going to lose it, and they try and go fast, like it's going to take and make it cut that much easier. No. Take your time and work your way through. Speed comes with experience. If you want to take and cut a lot of these in a hurry, practice. That's the only way you're going to get it. This tool, the other tool, the other skew that I was using, they all work the same way. And the only reason I used this one here was so that you could see it easier. One of the other cuts that is really handy with a skew is a cove cut. Now naturally you're not going to cut a real narrow small cove, but something like, say, a handle, just follow it down through. Now when you start to come back up, you'll be cutting against the grain, so you are going to have to come from the other side and meet the two in the middle. Or we could have a handle of some sort, whatever you need. Naturally, you can always use the tip to mark it. There's a million uses for this tool. I'm sure some of you fellows are going to at least give this a try. And I'd like to make a couple suggestions. When you do put a piece of wood in there, don't make it so long that it makes it subject to vibrations. Make a couple shorter pieces. It's nothing to put a new piece in. Also, when you turn, there's two things that I've noticed. Number one, when someone loses it, they have a tendency to go back to the very point where they started. Don't. Pick it up where you lost it. And make sure you carry it through. What that will do is teach you. Let's make it go. Okay, now I have to move the tool into its proper position to keep coming. If you come back here, you're going to repeatedly keep making the same mistake. And the other one that I think is really one of the hardest ones to teach people, and that is, as you come around, when you get to the bottom, stop. Most people continue to push and to push when the tool quits cutting, and they reduce this down to hardly anything. If you're going to be making beads, 9 times out of 10 that bead is in relation to something such as that, and it wants to be a certain diameter. If you don't know how to stop the tool, it's not going to work out the way you planned. Until you can make these tools do what you want them to do, till you can guide them to go where they should, you'll never make what you want. You're going to have to either let the tool decide where it's going to go, or you're going to have to tell the tool how to do what you want it to do. On my arsenal of skews, I'm just the same as most guys out there. I'm a tool junkie. I have to try a lot of them, and I've come across, I guess, what really ends up being there is no perfect tool. There is no tool that's ever going to take and do it for you. Now, there are some that I feel will take in and help you, that will do things easier than others. Now, out of all my tools, I do believe if I could only have one, it would be the little 1/2-inch one that I was using most of the day. It just does things for me. It works my type of tools quite well. If I could have two, I would throw in my heavier one, which I do need. My two small ones I use quite a bit for ornaments, anything small. In other words, why take something the size of this to turn something 1/8 of an inch in diameter? It'll do it, but something like that will do it a lot easier. The oval skews, I'm not a real fanatic with them. I just don't really care for them. They work fine, a little more difficult to sharpen than others, but I just prefer the rectangular ones instead, or even the square. They even have their place. I hope I've at least helped you to figure out what some of the problems are when you do try to turn with a skew and what goes awry. I'm not saying that everything I've said is the only way to do things, by no means, but basically, if it works for you, use it. But remember, there's two types of grain: long grain or face grain, and end grain. The long grain, you're going to need the tool in a planing mode, and you're going to have to use a large percentage of the blade. The end grain, whether it be a bead, a V-cut, or facing off a piece, you're going to have to use the points. So points for end grain, the blade for planing blades, or for straight grain. Hope that helps you a little bit. Hope you've enjoyed today's issue. And I'm Dick Singh for Woodworking at Home.